this class?
It's Professor Hongvu.
Okay.
It's Journalism 302.
Okay.
It's called Infomania. A lot of research.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so
Right.
this has kind of been my overarching theme with all the projects and homework assignments that I've done throughout the semester. So, and this is kind of the last piece I need for my paper as a whole.
Great.
So yeah.
Fire away.
So before I get into stuff from Latin America type questions, do you remember your first experience going to theater, like as a kid, when you were younger?
Oh, lovely question. Well, yes, I have two memories.
Mm-hmm.
One memory is my father taking me to see Fantasia.
Okay.
And this is that Disney film. My father played piano, classical piano, tango piano, and he loved Fantasia. And actually, I believe every year, Fantasia was projected in the theaters, and he took the children.
Yeah. Wow.
And it was beautiful because it was on the big screen.
Right,
and
right.
then fast forward to being in high school, my parents literally dragged me to see films from Argentina at the La Jolla Museum of Contemporary Art in San Diego.
Okay.
Where they were showing a series of Argentine films in democracy. So these are films made in the 1980s that were talking about the horrible past of the dictatorship.
Okay.
And that blew my mind.
Right.
That actually was a very formative experience of collective movie going.
So that was that kind of a pedestal into how you kind of decided, hey, this is maybe what I want to do in the future?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Because watching those films with a specific Argentine accent, with specific stories that only a culture itself could tell,
Right.
was very powerful. And it made me realize that Hollywood could try to approximate other cultures' stories, but could not quite grasp the gravity of the matter done in such an authentic way.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's it.
That's pretty cool. Wow. Yeah. Okay, so based on those experiences, I know you go to a lot of festivals overseas. Is there a difference between going there and watching their films as opposed to here in America, going to theaters here, festivals here?
Yeah. Good question. Well, it's going to vary. When I was in Cuba, what makes it special to see movies is that they don't have multiplex cinemas there.
Okay, right.
They have these huge picture palaces, and they fit thousands of people. So they're the old 1940s and 50s grand, ornate theaters. And that is a special experience because there's so many people in one place, and people come and go and come in the middle and leave. It's a very informal movie-going experience where people actually will yell at the movie screen and dialogue with the script, with the narrative. But yet, for example, being in Panama and Colombia, they are movieplexes, they are cinemaplexes. So I have to say that more and more the movie-going experience is very similar to what we know here in this country.
Yeah. Okay.
And that is because of the ownership of movie theaters being principally U.S. companies.
Right.
Which is part of the whole Hollywood industrial complex. We could call it that.
Right. Okay. Interesting. So when you go out to theaters, can you part of the debate is, when you go out to the cinema and you see a film projected on through a digital projector, you can tell the difference between that and the graininess of a 35 millimeter projector. There's no bubbling from the film. There's no, pops of spots in and out. When you go nowadays, can you tell, or do a lot of places you go to, do you see films still projected on 35 millimeter?
Right.
Or
well, I think these days, a sign of modernity in Latin America is to have digital projection.
Right.
So I think that whether you like it or not, things are moving in that direction. And actually, for those particular countries, it's less expensive for the filmmaker to shoot digitally and then have an uploading of the film. And
as opposed to using
the
prints,
celluloid, right?
then
So
right.
I realize there's a practical question now on the level of aesthetics, which is the question that you had. Absolutely, I think there's something very valuable about seeing a film on celluloid, and what I find very interesting is that film festivals, both in the United States, Europe, and Latin America, are creating sidebar retrospectives with newly preserved prints that they're projecting on 70 millimeter or 35 millimeter as a sort of lost art. So I think it's become a very precious and exceptional experience for people. So I think we can feel nostalgic about it. I think whether we like it or not, it's probably going away. However, it's becoming valorized to have these retrospectives. So it's kind of ironic that now we're wistful for this.
All of a sudden, it's, hey, we have all this new technology. Oh, wait.
But wait a minute, now we want it back. So I think there's there'll always be a space for it, and I think, yes, there's something to be said for it, but the reality is, kind of like globalization, it's hard to stop it. You can question it, but there are very economic-based reasons for why we have digital technology. I don't know if people appreciate the aesthetic of it. I personally do not see the same level of depth. And like you say, graininess of the image. But I also think that it is a lot more practical. Right.
Awesome. So in terms of I know you've already touched on this a little bit, but overseas in places like Cuba, Argentina, is there much talk at all about the transition, or is it more of just this is something we're going to get to, no big deal, no one really worries about it?
Well, I think right now Latin America is quite behind when it comes to digitization of movie theaters. I actually happened upon a statistic last night that showed that only 2% of theaters in Latin America right now are something very low. Don't quote me on this. So it is moving in that direction, but it's still quite behind. I could be confusing that statistic with 3D.
Okay.
Which maybe you're right. Maybe that is really low. I'm trying to remember. There's a friend of mine who is doing a study about digital movie theaters, so there must be enough of it. It must be significant enough to study. But I think that, again, I haven't found much debate in contra. I think that, as I mentioned earlier, there is this hope that Latin America can be modern. So there's this want to be on par with industry standards. A lot of complaints that people have about national cinemas is that the sound quality is bad, when actually what it is the movie theaters. So I think for them to have better quality technology, which comes from, it would go along with digital, that people would maybe have a different attitude about it compared to here. Whereas here we're sort of spoiled. We generally have pretty decent movie theater acoustics.
Which could be a reason for why we are so yearning for because it's like, it's too easy. Let's go back to doing it the hard way. Rough it up.
We're a little bit spoiled, and so we get to choose. Whereas in Latin America, the alternative is terrible. Basically. You're absolutely right.
Interesting.
I'm going to email you the statistic because I have it up on my. It's the national. You know who does this? The best work is the Motion Picture Association of America. It's the big studios here that report on Latin America.
The MPA does ratings. All that stuff.
They do a lot of statistical research, and I can't find it in Spanish. So I have to rely on my country, which Yeah. Anyway.
So here, a lot of directors, cinematographers, producers like Quentin Tarantino has put more than his 2 cents in about the use of film. He talks about how digital looks like HBO but put into a movie theater. Chris Nolan talks about how using 70 millimeter print in IMAX format is going to be a dying breed, but he's still going to do it anyways because go against the system, whatever. But then there's cinematographers like Roger Deakins, who's very, very well known in the American industry. He's a British cinematographer, but he works mainly with American directors on American projects.
Okay.
And he said, personally, he despises using film.
Oh.
He thinks it's I mean, with modern tech now, it's time consuming. You have to do more takes because the film can go bad, or something. You can be 2 minutes in and the reel of film will burst into flames going through the camera. Crazy stuff like that.
I mean, think about all the light meters they have to use.
All the lighting, all the pre-shot stuff you have to do. So, do you know of any directors, producers, any filmmakers overseas who are vocal about it, or either on the flip side, who are really advocating for transitioning over onto the other side using more modern technology?
Yeah, I would say in Latin America, again, without beating a dead horse, it's much, much more practical to use digital. So I think that these directors are basically saying, this is going to be the Latin American industry standard, is we're going to shoot digitally. Right. Some of them have adopted like Dogma 95. Do you remember that?
Vaguely, yes.
Okay. So there was this group from Denmark. It was basically Lars von Trier and Thomas Vinterberg, who basically said, we think Hollywood is going too far with all of these fancy, high-paid stars. Mainly, I think they were talking about CGI, digital effects. And so what they were saying is we need to strip it down. We need to make this simple. Everything in the mise-en-scène is shot. We don't add to the mise-en-scène. We don't add music later. It has to be in the mise-en-scène. And so they're basically saying this kind of poor cinema aesthetic, neo-realist throwback.
Yep, exactly.
That is more in line with who we are, and so we are embracing the digital. It would be nice to shoot in film. We get it, but it's not within our reach. You were talking about these people complaining, and it's funny because this weekend I took my children to see The Jungle Book in the IMAX theater, the extreme screen at Union Station. And it was horrifying. I mean, it was terrifying for them. One of them managed. The other two I had to take out.
Oh, wow.
The theater.
Okay,
But it was so immersive, and then it made me start thinking about the 3D glasses that people are wearing now, the virtual reality. And those are shot, I guess, 16 digital cameras. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Where you put the glasses on?
Yeah.
They say that that's going to be a new wave of movie going.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think you might say something like, there are these detractors to the digital, but on the one hand, it makes it possible for poorer countries to film, and that's really important. And also, you can't ignore the future. So to have this kind of immersive 3D filming, that's going to happen. And one of our alums, Chris Martin, he is a digital effects expert. He won an Emmy for Heroes on TV. Yeah, it's a big deal. Awesome. And he is almost planning to quit his job to invest and create more films in this virtual reality. He believes this is the future. And when he came to KU for a board meeting, he brought these cardboard glasses, and he's like, Tamara, download the app, put the glasses on, you'll see what I mean. I had too much memory. I had not enough memory in my phone. I couldn't do it. Fast forward to last month, I had to buy a new phone. With my Samsung 7, they gave me free glasses.
Okay.
And so I downloaded this Oculus, whatever, show to you, that's you, gear, and I mean, it is actually incredible. Yeah. So I think, there you go. See? So I think that's the other issue with digital, is there is a forward march.
And it's such a...
It's a brave new world.
It's a very fast-moving forward march, There's so much, within the past, since the iPhone came out, back in...
When was that, 1988?
I don't know.
I'm just guessing.
I mean, the iPhone, Steve Jobs had been, creating the iPhone for years and years, but I don't, it saw its release in the early 2000s,
Okay.
So that's 15 years, though. 15 years.
That's true.
We have
and
glasses
look at where
we can
come.
put on our heads. What's interesting about the Jungle Book, I don't know if you read into it much at all, but the only real person is the little boy, and he's running around a big green room with little tennis ball sticks. He's talking to that, you know, or some guy in a big green suit. And that's
it's motion capture. It's
crazy.
crazy. In fact,
incredible.
we debated that. My husband was like, well, aren't they in the jungle filming? I said, no, I think it's all a green screen. I think it's ugly.
There's not a single,
and all the rest are animals.
not a single live set. Everything,
and
all the grass.
Really believable. I mean, if you know, which you do know about how it was made, you're gonna nitpick at the movements. And you're gonna see a little stiffness.
You're gonna watch and you're gonna see, oh yeah, see his eyes are kind of
a little bit artificial.
Am I looking at that ball or that ball?
Right.
You know, but yeah.
But I mean, I think that's something to be considered, that maybe they'll get to the point where they can reproduce the celluloid aesthetic better.
Right.
And then we have the problem solved. You know, we can avoid all this money issues of developing the film, optical printing, and everything else.
I did an assignment on in one of the things I was looking at was who's creating cameras still, who leases them to filmmakers, and
that's good.
Panavision is pretty much the last company that uses 35mm cameras.
Is that right?
And Kodak is the only company that sells 35mm print. And I was looking at costs for, you know, like if you used a Red One digital camera, how much would that cost versus using a Panavision Panaflex with 10 500-foot stocks of film, and it's, you know, the Red One's about $10,000.
Okay.
The Panavision is about $3,000, but each stock of film also costs about $3,000 to $5,000. So yeah,
it adds up.
When you factor in costs nowadays, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I'm sure it's like, if I had to guess, I would say 1/3 the price.
Right, almost. It's about.
Something.
I mean, it's from what I saw is about 1/3. Sometimes half the cost, depending on like James Cameron's Avatar. That one cost a lot of money, but
the CGI
the CGI really factors into that.
That's true. That's
expensive. Films like.
That's interesting about the Jungle Book, because remember how that company that did The Life of Pi went out of business, Rhythm and Hughes. They were doing all the digital effects, and they couldn't get paid fast enough to pay the people. So I don't know how they pulled off paying Jungle Book people. I'll look it up because that was a huge problem.
Oh yeah.
You know, remember
that?
Right,
I do. Yeah.
So you're right. Those things are very expensive.
Right. Well, in terms of other questions, I think that's about it.
Okay.
Thank you so much for
I
meeting with me.
think the important thing that you're bringing up is the question of not just making the films on film stock versus digital, but actually projecting them.
Right.
Because more and more people are getting rid of that projection system. And I know that we are talking about a brand new building that we're going to move into, and there was a man who came up to us and said, you guys need a Cinematech. You guys need to have 35 and 16mm equipment.
Right.
And we said, well, that sounds fantastic, but A, who's going to maintain the equipment? B, who's going to maintain the films? You know, there's storage issues. There's so many
storage issues. Even getting the films. I mean,
the films are hard.
It costs a lot of money to get them. Especially,
Do we want to be a repository when you have the PFA in Berkeley and all these, the Harvard archive or whatever? So anyway, it's more elaborate than simply downlinking a digital file, and paying for versus a whole blah 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 equipment.
You gotta get the stocks, and you gotta have someone up there to switch them. You gotta have this. It's a big process.
You had to have special dimensions for the screening. The projector room had to be a certain distance to project it. And, so we looked at the Spencer Art Museum as a place to have this. And we realized unless we have like a $2 million endowment or something. So anyway, those are just things also to think about.
Kind of a side question. Do they still do mobile cinemas in Cuba?
Well, they don't do in Cuba, but I am actually writing about that right now. Venezuela has a great mobile cinema unit that's working to this day. And now there's a group in Mexico and the U.S. called Ambulante. So it means ambulating, like moving, mobile. Ambulante. And they are incredibly successful. Gael Garcia Bernal, who's a famous actor from Mexico. Have you heard of him?
I don't know. No.
Okay, he's gotten big lately with a show on Netflix called Mozart of the Jungle. And it's based on this Venezuelan guy who grew up very poor, who became a world famous conductor for the LA Symphony.
Right.
And he helped young people on the streets learn musical instruments. Anyway, Gael Garcia Bernal and his best friend Diego Luna created Ambulante, and basically the idea is, there are lots of small towns that don't have movie theaters.
Right.
So let's go and screen work for free in the plazas, in open air spaces.
Right.
And these film festivals I've been going to, like in Colombia and Panama, have something called Cine en los Barrios, cinema in the neighborhoods.
Right.
And they even screen, so there's this movie, you have to see this, Gus. This is off, not related, but this movie from Colombia called Embrace of the Serpent.
Embrace of the Serpent.
It's going to blow your mind.
I've heard about this film.
You need to see this movie. I tell you, you'll love it. It's brilliant. Anyway, they projected Embrace of the Serpent in a women's prison during the Cartagena Film Festival. So I think to make film accessible is the most important issue.
Right.
And in Brazil right now, the city of Rio is creating city neighborhood movie theaters in the favelas of Brazil, in the poor, rough neighborhoods of Brazil.
Right.
And these are digital cinemas. These
Right.
are smaller, kind of multiplexes. And so they're seeing these cool movies like City of God. You may have heard of that one. These Brazilian comedies, kind of popular commercial cinema.
Right.
Probably Hollywood too.
Yeah.
So
But being able to have
are getting involved, to make it more accessible on the state level. And then, yes, the mobile cinemas, not so much in Cuba, but in other, because they just don't have money right now.
Right.
But other countries like Ambulante US, it was, I know the person who organizes it for Los Angeles.
Okay.
Because there's a big Latino community.
Right.
And they showed a documentary called something like No More Babies, and it was about a documentary about women who were sterilized without their consent.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they projected the documentary on the hospital where they did this in the 70s and 80s. You get goosebumps.
Right, yeah.
So it's cool stuff. So you can look up Ambulante.
Yeah,
it's all
definitely.
on the website.
Awesome.
Easy, fancy, nice.
Cool.
Yeah, and if you have any other questions while you're writing, email me. I'm happy
Definitely,
to answer any questions.
And when I get it done, I'll be sure to email it to you, show you any info I use from you.
I would love to read it.
Yeah,
awesome. I want to see what you kind of come up with, because you have to make an argument, right?
Right,
You have to have a thesis statement.
Right.
So you have to decide. I mean, you might say, look, we need to do this, we need to hold on to 35, but in particular contexts where it's affordable. Or maybe sacred spaces like film festivals. But in other contexts like Latin America, it's just not an option.
Other
it's
countries,
just prohibitive.
It's
and
not
people
just
forget.
progress, but it's a requirement to be able to move forward and allow cinema to be more accessible, like you said.
Exactly.
Right.
And the other thing we haven't even talked about is piracy.
Oh gosh. Yeah, right.
I mean, that's how most people, a lot of people, listen, I say most, but a lot of people in Latin America see films. And that's the downside of digital. Is that people leak.
People can leak it much easier. Well, I remember Oscar season this past year, we have group messages with all the film classes and stuff, and even with Cuban film we had one, and someone said, hey, every single Oscar nominated film is on this website, because that's how they send their films to the Academy.
And they have a password?
Over the internet, and someone monitors the web, and they see that file and they can snatch it and put it on their website.
And so you had access to
stream it for free, yeah.
So that was for the students, because I didn't get that.
Yeah. Well, I saw The Big Short. I saw Anomalisa. I don't know if you heard. It's a stop motion film. Gosh, what else? I saw The Hateful Eight.
Okay.
I did end up going to see The Hateful Eight in 70 millimeter. Which was very.
Was that at the Alamo Draft House? Or?
No, it was at the AMC 20 in Town Center.
Yeah, that's
in that area.
Yeah.
And it was. I mean, Tarantino did exactly what he wanted to. It felt very much like going to a theater in the 60s. You have no commercials. You go in, there's a score at the beginning, kind of a what's the word?
Soundtrack?
I mean, it's just a piece of music playing, and it's like it's just to open the film, right? There's nothing going on. It's just like it's just like a preview.
Okay.
And then, yeah, there was an intermission, 15-minute intermission.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was really, really interesting.
That's neat.
It was fun. It was a really cool experience to kind of be able to say, yeah, I did this thing, and it was exactly like being back in the past, where you go, and there's, you know, you
I
just,
didn't know about
yeah, it was cool. I liked it.
Well, you know, on a related note, okay, let's see what might be fine. So what I'm really interested in is digital access for books.
Right.
Right. So this whole question of open access. And I'm going to be going to a meeting at the library later this week, and basically what they're saying is that, you know, things are moving so quickly where now university presses are creating these digital arms of their presses where they're publishing everything online.
Right.
And so what I don't understand, because it turns out that the companies with the most profit, you know, you assume it's like oil companies or banks.
Right.
It's actually bottled water, diamonds,
Wow.
and publishing.
Diamonds.
Well, yeah, because they exploit the crap out of
Yeah,
the workers,
right,
and then you
right.
know what they charge for these dumb rocks.
For
you know,
one, yeah.
Stupid
A
amounts
little.
of money, right?
Right.
And we know a family that's incredibly rich because
Right.
of their jewelers.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so anyway, publishing
Publishing.
is up there too.
Right.
And that's because people like me pretty much give away their research.
Yeah.
You know, we get a pittance
Right,
for it, and
yeah.
then they charge, you know how much they charge for textbooks.
Yeah, it's crazy. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So what they're doing now is they're learning that if they do publish it digitally, that people like you, maybe, because you just saw a movie legally, but then you went to the theater to see it,
Right.
they believe that people will watch it, or sorry, see it on the screen, but then if they like it, they'll want their own.
Right. The one that
Physical
want to actually
copy.
buy it. Right.
So isn't that
That is-
interesting? Because I wondered,
Yeah.
what's the economics of that?
Well, there's, you know, Adobe does Photoshop, After Effects,
Yeah.
stuff like that. They have a big problem with illegal downloads of their software, but they've never discouraged it because for that reason. Their hopes is that by not discouraging it, people will see it, will use it. They'll realize, okay, I really like this. Maybe I should buy it, and then they'll actually go out and spend the, I don't know how much, 150,
Yeah.
200, whatever, how much for whatever
Because you
programs
get
they want.
more stuff with it.
Right,
maybe,
you can get,
or-
well, yeah, you can get, like, there's basic packages and there's premium packages.
see.
But yeah, so they've never discouraged illegal downloading
Interesting.
because they too think that in doing that, they'll kind of encourage people to actually go out and buy it after seeing that they like the product. So
Well,
yeah,
and
that's
think about it. If you're an adapter and we're teaching a class and we see adopters, what I meant,
right.
and everybody knows how to use it, well, then we're going to get the institution to buy it. And
Right.
it just makes sense to kind of convert everybody to
Yeah.
this model.
Right, right.
Interesting. Yeah. So anyway, great. Well,
Awesome.
I'm looking
Well,
forward to this.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for meeting.
Sure.
I'm glad we
so
got
glad
as much
to-
as I did.